glad to see you here. Welcome to our spring decorate with me. We're going to be creating a cute hydrangea cookie today. We're just using some simple stuff. This is going to be great for you if you are a beginner, if you're just getting started with cookies. This is going to be perfect. I'm going to go over all of the things that I usually use when getting started, kind of break things down to the basics, but it'll also be a really fun decorating experience if you've been at it for a while as well. So if you didn't catch my post yet, or if you're watching the replay and want to know what you need, today we are working with a circle cookie. It can be any size, any form of circle cookie. Mine is probably, I've got big hands, so mine's probably about the size of my hand, but this is maybe a 3 to 4 inch cookie. So this is what we're working with today. I've got a few different colors of icing, and I mentioned to y'all in the comments earlier, I really didn't plan this out. It's gonna be kind of a show up and see how it goes type of video. We're gonna get creative and try some new things. But when I'm doing flowers, what I normally do is make my normal royal icing recipe. I got that from Casey's Cakery on Instagram a few years ago. She's absolutely wonderful. If you enjoy cookies, you will enjoy her account. But in my icing consistency free class, it's called Consistency Confidence. You can find it on my website on the homepage. I share that recipe that I got from her and how I typically use it and how I use it to decorate cookies, because I kind of have my own little system for making it work. But what I do is I make the icing fresh each time I want to make flowers, because flowers really kind of need that fresh icing that has that fluffy structure. When it sits a little while too long, like a full day, or is even frozen or refrigerated, sometimes the icing will separate into solids and liquids, and when you recombine it, it's great for flooding. There's nothing wrong with reusing icing for flooding or any other really cookie endeavor, but for flowers specifically, I really prefer a fresh icing. So that's what I've got here, and anytime I'm doing flowers, I just go ahead and put that thick consistency icing. I don't add any water to it. I just pull it straight from the mixer, add my color to it, and then I pop it into a tipless piping bag. So these are tipless piping bags. They're not like the ones that you would find at Walmart or Hobby Lobby. Those are regular pastry bags. Tipless piping bags, if you're new to cookie decorating, are just a little different. They're very handy. They're very thin plastic down here at the bottom, and it makes decorating so much easier. You can easily find them on Amazon. I just order the cheapest ones usually, unless I'm doing something special like a very intricate writing project. So I also usually do a couple shades of green and a couple shades of whatever color I'm going to be using for my actual flower itself. So today I have some light green, some dark green. I put aside a little bit of white and some light pink and a darker shade of pink as well. Now, you'll see that I don't have my tips on the bags currently. I have some bags set aside here beside me. What I usually do is I will have the icing in a bag, and then I'll have a bag with a tip on it, and then I can just cut the top of this and slip it down in that other bag in case I need to change out the tip that I'm using with the icing. It just makes it easier not having to make a whole nother bag. And I'm all about a shortcut anytime I can find one. So I've got my tips here. I've got a few extra bags. I've got some scissors, my scribe tool, my cookie. Oh, and before we get into that, we mentioned the color of the icing. For anyone that's new, I just want to clarify, we're not talking about coloring your icing with regular grocery store food coloring. If that's how you start, no shame, no hate. But that food coloring is diluted. It already has water in it. So what it will do is by the time you get your icing to that pretty vibrant color that you're looking for, it will actually be runnier than you want it to be, especially for florals. If you're working on a floral, you really, really need gel food coloring. Let me show you what that looks like. This is the Wilton brand. I've gotten this at Walmart. This is what I started with. I still use it frequently. It is the Color Right system. It's very, very thick food coloring. Now, I love AmeriColor as well. I'm not sponsored by them, but hey, AmeriColor, if you want to, give me a shout out. This is what it looks like. You can see it's been very well worn and very well loved. But this is a very, very thick food coloring. It is not watery. You know, it's still a liquid, but it's not that watery consistency that you would find in like the food coloring that you used to make Play-Doh as a kid, or the food coloring that you just pick up at the supermarket in the baking section. This is a baking specific food coloring that works very well for making icing that doesn't get runny. So you'll want to go to the like cake supply, cake decorating aisle at Walmart or Hobby Lobby. Hobby Lobby has a brand called like Sunshine Bakery, I think, and I really like theirs as well. It's another good one, but that's an important tip to keep in mind when you're making icing that you want to stay thick. So if you need some help creating your icing, go to my website, go to the Consistency Confidence. That's talking about icing consistency, how to make this icing, what supplies you need. I've got all the good Amazon links there, and it's free, so that's always helpful. But before we get started with our cookie, I also want to take care of our giveaway. So I told y'all that whoever posted this month in the Cookie Confidence group was going to be entered and have a chance to win a free month in the Cookie Classroom. Well, a lot has changed since then. You may have seen that I've updated the Cookie Classroom pricing so that it is now a pay what you can course. And this kind of came after, I hate to say it, but not a lot of thought. I put out a poll here in the group and asked y'all what had kind of been a hindrance or a stumbling block for you when it comes to signing up for the Cookie Classroom course. And if you're new around here, the Cookie Classroom course is just an online course. It's a series of videos that have been organized and they have PDFs with them. You can go to my website and learn more about that. But it's a course that takes you from very beginner, I don't know how to decorate cookies, but I want to learn, all the way to being able to see a picture of a cookie online or have an idea of what you want to do and being able to create that. It goes through 16 different workshops. There's a florals workshop, and it covers kind of similar to what we're talking about today, but also gives you the links to all the supplies. It gives you like a practice page for making your petals and goes very in depth into creating florals and greenery. We have a writing class, a wet on wet technique class. It takes you through all the different royal icing techniques that I use commonly to create the cookies that I make on the channel. So if that's something you're interested in, go check that out, because you can get into that class for as low as $1 now. It is pay what you can pricing. There are some costs associated with keeping that course going. You know, as anything in business goes, there's always some kind of cost associated with it. So if we can just earn enough every month to cover those costs, I'm a happy camper. You know, I have my business course that teaches you how to make a business out of this, but you really need that cookie decorating foundation in order to start seeing like, hey, do I want to make a business out of this? So I wanted to make that more available to everyone. So rather than the $25 a month that I know a lot of you said was just something that isn't possible right now, and I get that. We've been in that place before where it wouldn't have been wise for me to have signed up for something that was $25 a month. And even in the scheme of online courses, although that seems like it's not that much, when you think about it in terms of, you know, the economy that we're in today, it is quite a big commitment. So now you don't have to make that commitment. You pay one time, you pay whatever you can, whether it's $1, $10, $25, $50, whatever you feel comfortable with and feel is a wise decision for you and your family. You get lifetime access to that course. So we do have a winner today, and rather than a month, our winner is going to get lifetime access to the Cookie Classroom. And our winner, I'm going to make sure I'm saying her name correctly. Okay, Our winner is Sarah Elizabeth Gill. So Sarah Elizabeth, if you would like to claim your free lifetime access to Cookie Classroom, please send me a message and I will get with you, get your email, and we'll get you all signed up for that. And I appreciate you making a post here in the group. All of you who have posted this month, I just really appreciate it. So before I talk y'all to death, let's make a cookie. I could talk all day, so I better start cookie decorating, huh? All right, so I'm gonna pull one of my little tipless piping bags. This is what they look like. And I'm just gonna fit it with one of these petal tips. Now, I told y'all to use a small petal tip or have one on hand. I couldn't find my small petal tip today, so I'm using one that's a little bit bigger. It's not huge, but it's just a little bit bigger, and mine is actually curved. So if you like making flowers and it's something that you want to do more often, then definitely try out a curved petal tip. They're really fun to work with and super cute. But if yours is not curved, no worries. This is just the one I could find today because my cookie cabinet is a hot mess disaster. I always get so excited to decorate and then I never clean up my mess. And then my cabinet ends up being a disaster area. So I'm gonna come in with my darker pink and I'm gonna cut the bottom off of this piping bag. So I'm cutting a pretty big opening. I come all the way down here, and this is just for when I'm using a piping tip like this. When I'm flooding, I cut a very small hole at the bottom. It's like 1/4 of an inch. But today, since we're making flowers, I'm gonna be cutting a big opening. That way we can use this as kind of our holder for this icing. And then I'm gonna pop it into our bag. And this is gonna do double duty. This is gonna allow us to work with this color of icing, but when we take this portion out, it's gonna leave a little bit of that dark color icing down in the bag, which I like because that's gonna allow us to kind of stripe that next color with this color, and it's gonna make for a more blended, pretty flower look. So what we're gonna do, and if you have a cookie turntable, it might be a good time to grab that cookie turntable because I'll be turning just with my hand today, but it does make it easier if you have one of those little turntables that you can use. So I'm just gonna lay down and I'm putting my piping tip parallel with the cookie. I'm just gonna lay down some color. And this isn't meant to be any type of shape or anything pretty. It's just gonna be kind of circular. This is not our flower. This is the base, the background kind of. Okay, this is what that looks like. I just held it parallel and got some color on the cookie. Nothing major. So now I'm actually gonna start forming the petals, and this is the fun part to me. This is when it gets to kind of come together and start to make something that resembles a flower. And like I told y'all, we're going for the look of a hydrangea with this. So it's gonna give us lots of opportunities to practice those little petals. So if you've ever seen a hydrangea bloom, which I'm sure you have, they're pretty common, it's like a big puffball full of tiny flowers, which I think is so gorgeous. That's the kind of flower we had in our wedding 8 years ago, long ago. But that is the kind of flower we have when we got married because they're my absolute favorite. I just think they're gorgeous. So with that put down, we're gonna start making those smaller petals on top. Now, to make a petal, you're just gonna place your piping bag and you're gonna give it a little gentle squeeze and you're gonna turn. Now, like I said, the class inside the Cookie Classroom does give you a practice page that has a PDF you can print off, and I just put mine into a page projector. You can laminate it, put parchment over it, but it gives you the little arrows pointing that help you get used to making this motion with your wrist. That's probably the hardest part to get accustomed to, is making the actual motion with your wrist. So it looks like this. It's kind of like making a rainbow. And then you're just coming in, and we're gonna do each little petal. And I'm gonna do that with, excuse me, these bags sound awful. But I'm gonna do that just a few more times all over this cookie to create those little flower shapes. And I'm just doing 4 petals on each of these smaller flowers. We're gonna go back in with the other color of pink, and we're gonna add a center to these flowers that's gonna make them look a little bit more natural. I'm just kind of placing them randomly on there. I don't have a really detailed plan in place about how they're gonna look. But that's where we're at now. I've just put a few of those little ones kind of all over the place. And if it helps you, something that helped me when I got started, if it's hard for you to hold your wrist steady or hold your hand steady, what I like to do is hold my piping bag like this. I've got the top kind of pinched between my thumb and forefinger. If I were using a flood consistency, I would definitely put like a band on here to hold it in, but with this thick consistency, I don't have to do that. So I just pinch it enough at the top so that I can push it down into the tip. So I like to compare this to milking cows. If you've ever been to a in-person class with me, you know. We went on a 4-H trip when I was little, and the way that they explained milking cows is the way that I hold a piping bag. So you pinch with your thumb and forefinger at the top, and then you squeeze down from the top onto the piping bag. And that will help your icing flow on out. And that's what I do with my flood consistency as well. But you're holding your piping bag, and then I like to use 2 fingers on my non-dominant hand to support my wrist. And that helps me just have a little bit more of a stable base. And especially if I'm where I can lean on a surface, I like to place my elbow down, and I'll have like a little bit more steadiness when I'm piping. So now I'm gonna take my lighter shade, and this is where we're gonna see that icing kind of double duty stripe go to work. I'm gonna cut a large hole at the end, just like I did before. And we're gonna pull that out. Oh, and it still has the tip attached. Whoops. Place that back in there. And we're going to slide our next color in and squeeze. And I'm going to make a few little petals while I'm squeezing that first color out. I'm not doing the full flower shape. I'm just going to make a few petals around the edges. And if you have a lot of icing in there, you might have to kind of squeeze until you start to see that lighter color come out. So it's hard to see from where you are, I know, because I'm putting it into a plate, but when I squeeze, I can begin to see that lighter pink come out, but I have the dark kind of on the top of the petals. So I'm going to begin making more of those little flower shapes all around. And I know there are going to be people who say, how are you going to eat that if it's going to be such thick icing? Honestly, I have never had complaints about the thickness of the icing when I made cookies for the public. Most people compare it to like the texture of a sweet tart. I've really not had much issue with it when I was making cookies for people. However, I also kind of just count these as the pretty cookie. You know, I want my cookies to look beautiful and taste great as well. But it's like anything you make in baking, or, I mean, really anything. Some people are going to like it, some people aren't. Some people love the texture of dried royal icing. I compare it to like a sweet tart. Some people just aren't crazy about it, and that is totally fine. If it's not their cup of tea, then that is all right. However, I do like to make sure that these are served fresh. So if I'm using a really thick amount of royal icing like this, and this is what it looks like after those light flowers are added. If I'm using a lot of royal icing and making it really thick, then I like to make sure and either package them in a cellophane bag like the day after they're dry. As soon as they're dry, I want to get them into a cellophane bag, airtight. That way they stay fresh and they stay soft. They don't get the opportunity for that icing to dry out and get really just like chalky crunchy. But like I said, some people just aren't gonna like the texture of royal icing, and that's okay. Like I said, these cookies are kind of, and let's be honest, they're mainly for looks, but I do like for them to taste good as well. Some people really love the texture, some people don't, and that is totally fine. So I'm gonna take this light green that I have, and I'm just gonna snip a little bit from the tip of that tipless piping bag, and it just flew over on that placemat. Now, I'm going to bring y'all a little bit closer for this step, and I hope y'all don't mind me moving the camera around. My apologies in advance. We're going to get a little bit closer. There we go. I want y'all to be able to see this part. All right. Now then, we can see that a little bit better. So I've got my tipless piping bag cut with just a teeny tiny little hole at the tip. And I'm going to take that tipless bag and I'm just going to add, whoa Nelly! I'm going to add a center to each of these little flowers, or what I estimate to be the center. The hydrangeas usually have like little bitty dots as the center of the flower. I'm trying to think back, and this is not absolutely perfect on what would be the center of the flower, and that's okay. Flowers aren't usually perfect in nature, so I try not to stress too much about it. I'm trying to think back to the last time I saw a hydrangea, and I probably should have looked up a picture before I started this video, but I think it's gonna turn out pretty just the same. My grandmother had a hydrangea at the side of her house my whole life. It's still there, and it is one of my favorite things to go and see when it's in bloom. These little tiny centers in the flowers just make it kind of come to life and pop. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how I create the leaf shape on my floral cookies. I'm loving how that's looking so far, and you can see how that little bit of other color just made it come to life and look more realistic. If you want a closer look at how that color came out, that's what it looks like as it starts to come out of the petal tip. So I've got my scissors here, and I've got my dark green in a tipless piping bag. I love to use 2 different shades of really any color I'm doing with flowers, but especially the greenery, because when you walk up to a regular plant, it's usually not just one color. And something else that I forgot to mention as we were getting started, having neutral colors like this gray or this black, will really help to, if you add just a tiny bit to any of your colors that you're mixing, it will help it to look more like a natural color that you would find in a garden, as opposed to this more like neon bubblegum pink that looks more like a candy, which I love a good neon bubblegum pink. I think it's cute, but I have not seen very many flowers that are this color in nature, and I like for mine to look kind of realistic. Now, I'm going to take this bag and just smooth out. You want to find this seam. If this is your first time working with tipless piping bags, there will be a seam on there that looks like this. You'll be able to feel it when you kind of go across the bag, and you'll be able to see it because it's sort of raised. You'll want to turn your bag so that that seam is to the side, and it's going to look like this. You're going to be able to smooth it out kind of in a triangle. And you're going to cut this bag into a V shape. So I like to cut kind of a bigger V because I like to make big leaves. And it looks like that. Now I'm just going to come to the side of my flower and make some pretty leaves. And I'm going to just push. Again, I'm holding my piping bag in the same way. I'm pushing, and then I'm doing this motion up and down all the way out to create that leaf. And that's what it looks like. You can also use a leaf tip, like a metal leaf tip that you would use in cake decorating. It will do the exact same job, but this is just a super quick and easy way to do it with cookies. Now I'm gonna kind of come closer to the flowers this time, and the more you squeeze, the wider your leaf is gonna be. The less you squeeze, the smaller your leaf is gonna be. So, for example, I'm gonna squeeze quite a bit here and have a really wide leaf. And I'm gonna come down here and create a small one and just barely squeeze. And I've got just a little tiny dainty one there. So that's basically it on the leaves. You can do all kinds of different pretty leaf shapes, and there are lots of videos out there that show you, and especially in that florals class inside Cookie Classroom, there are lots of videos showing how I make greenery in different shapes and sizes, how to add that visual interest. But just adding a leaf makes it clear that this is a flower. Do y'all think I should add one right here at the bottom? I don't know. I'm a maximalist. I tend to add too many, and then it's like, ooh, what is that? It's just a big bouquet, and it doesn't really look like one single flower anymore. I'm gonna refrain. I'm gonna be chill and just not. But that's it. That is our hydrangea. I hope that y'all have enjoyed this little mini class on flowers, this Decorate With Me session. If you made the cookie along with me today, then I would absolutely love it, and it would mean so much to me if you would tag me when you post a picture of it. Post a picture of it in the group, even if it's long after today, even if you didn't decorate with me during the live session, even if you're catching this on YouTube or in the group as a replay, I would absolutely love it. And excuse the icing on my hands, guys. I would love it if you would post pictures of what you've made. Tell me what you thought. Tell me what your challenges were, what you enjoyed about this. If you used a different color and got creative with this, I can't wait to see it. If you have any questions about cookie decorating, royal icing, all that good stuff, you can head to sarahgracecookieco.com. I've got more information there on learning to decorate royal icing cookies like these, as well as starting your cookie decorating business. I hope that you've enjoyed the video today. I've enjoyed decorating with you. Happy spring. I am going to go eat a delicious hydrangea cookie with some coffee. I'll save a little bit for the boys too. Y'all have a great day. Bye.